Yeah. Okay, we're now recording.
All right, wonderful. Let me mute my phone since it just made a sound. But welcome. This is the January 31st, 2022 meeting of the Public Art Ad Hoc Committee. We will start with roll call. Zena Allen is not here. Ruth Causey.
Here.
Sally Duell.
Here.
Jen Edwards.
Present.
Wonderful. Shar Fagerston.
I'm here.
Wonderful. Nancy Froelich.
Here.
Janelle LaJoy.
I'm here.
And Peggy Yoder.
Here.
Great. And I'm Christopher McMorrin. I'm here. And Chelsea Starner is also here. So to get us started, we realized there was a slight fluke on my end in the last meeting where we tabled the adoption of the November 30th meeting minutes, and then we never actually got back to it after we tabled it. So we do still need to adopt those minutes. I don't know if there were any more concerns. I remember we tabled it because there may have been concerns, but folks weren't sure what they were at the time. So I don't know if there's any discussion of those November 30th minutes. And Chelsea, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I don't, except that the minutes that are included in the packet do, and maybe should have gone back, but they do include Peggy's corrections that she requested.
Okay.
These are amended to include those, which if anyone objects, we would go back to the existing minutes. I think I'd already, for some reason, I thought you had adopted them, and so I'd gone forward with that. So
that's good to know. Thank you.
If anyone has any thing to say about that and did not like Peggy's additions, but I think you all agreed on Peggy's, and then you tabled it to open it up for further.
So yeah, are there any more amendments to the November 30th minutes, or if not, we just need to do the formality of actually approving them, which we didn't do at our last meeting. Yes, Ruth.
I would move that we adopt the minutes of November 30th as amended.
Is there a second for that?
A second.
All right, so it's moved and seconded to adopt the November 30th minutes as amended at our last meeting. Any discussion of that? Any opposition to that? Okay, fantastic. Then that passes, and we will move on to our minutes from the January 3rd meeting, which was our last meeting. So we have not looked at these yet. So are there any amendments proposed for these minutes? Yeah, Ruth.
I move that we adopt the January 3rd minutes.
All right, is there a second to that?
A second.
All right, it's moved and seconded to adopt our January 3rd, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Okay, then is there any opposition to that motion? Wonderful, the motion passes and we've adopted both sets of minutes, and we can move on to business. So of course, the banner item for tonight's meeting is the review of proposals for our sidewalk inlay project. Thank you all. I hope you had a chance to take a look at all the proposals that Chelsea sent out and rate them, or at least send Chelsea your feedback. We are going to go through sort of the aggregate of what the whole committee, Chelsea put all of the scores that she received back into one sort of master spreadsheet. So we're going to look at that, but don't worry if we're not strictly tied to the numbers. So we're just going to use that as sort of a guide for our discussion. Chelsea, is there anything you want to say before I maybe pull that up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know there were several of you that didn't get your feedback in, or didn't have it in all of the full format with all of the numbers. So what we'll do is look at I got most of your numbers back, so this will be an average of all of the numbers that came in. And then you can have some discussion. So if there's something that, if someone didn't submit anything or didn't submit a full, all of the numbers, then please feel free. We'll just kind of take it, you know, we can do it how you want. We could, my recommendation is to start with the highest number, the vendor that came out the highest. There's a couple that are really close together. And so you may want to do that, and we'll just start with them. And then if anyone has anything else that they want to say about any of the other proposers, we'll just open it up to have that discussion too. But I think you'll find that most of you were fairly well aligned, but we want to make sure if someone doesn't feel like that represents what you were thinking when you were putting those numbers down, we want to make sure that we can get comments about that.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. Janelle? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Are there perhaps two that were so low in the scoring that we could just eliminate them immediately and not even have to put them in the thinking process and then start with the first one like you're saying? Or is it not?
Should I
I'm wondering if there was like, you know, if
Well-
someone had a score of 18, do we just want to
Sure.
say that, hey, we're not going to talk about this anymore?
Well, they're all in one sheet. And so I think that I heard from almost all of you. And even people who did not do numbers did send me what their favorites were. And Christopher's going to share. So you'll see here that the Marks Garcia came out the highest overall, and then Lenore Graphics. So they're all in the sheet because we want to show that we did score all of them, you know, as part of the process. But you can see that there are, you know, there are several that are not up in that top, the top numbers there. So what my point was, is I think let's discuss Marks Garcia. Lenore Graphics is really close, but see if you can come to a decision about the two of those. But if someone does have something to say about one of the other ones and feels like, wait a minute, I thought they were all 10s. Why did they end up being a 5? And you feel like you want to say that, that's all right. But I think it is pretty clear that they're really a top 2 there. So
yeah.
Christopher, if you, I don't know what you think, but I'm thinking maybe let's just start with.
Yeah, and I think just to reiterate what Chelsea was talking about a little bit earlier, I'm not sure if everyone was here. Some of these artists seem really great. They're just maybe their medium or their experience doesn't fit this particular project. So that doesn't mean that they're out of the running for anything that we might do later in this committee, or that the city may need in the future. So just know that if we don't select someone for this project, it's not an indictment of their quality of work or our desire to work with them. We just have to select the person that we think would be best able to complete this particular project. So just use that as sort of a, you know, a guide as we have this discussion. So yeah, I guess I don't know exactly how we want to go about this, but I think maybe right off the bat, is there anyone that has any major concerns with any of these numbers or any of these total, like, does anyone completely disagree with something? Because if not, then we can just kind of get into the more detailed discussion. Yeah, Janelle?
I just would kind of like to, because of something I heard from one of the references today, I would like to consider Brett Johnson. I don't know any of these people at all, but I got an absolutely amazing glowing reference about him today. And that if you want a piece of art, this is your person. And it was a glowing reference from one of his listed references. And so I guess since those, I don't know, I don't know how close the decimal points are in the 9876. If it, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's 7.9 and 8.1, right? But I would just like to consider him perhaps
Okay.
a little more seriously than just looking at the top 2.
Okay.
If that's,
Yeah, sure, that we can incorporate that. Ruth?
Yes, I have one comment and one question. Maybe this is obvious to everyone else, but Chelsea, could you tell us how you compiled the ratings?
Was your question, Ruth, how I compiled them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, so I went through and you will see that they show up as rounded numbers, which is maybe part of the question. And that's really kind of for simplicity's sake. Again, we can discuss this if someone thinks something's really off, but the numbers, they did come out kind of how they came out. But let me see, I'm going to add this up. Basically what I did is I took everyone who gave me input, which was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of you, I believe, submitted full sheets with numbers. And so those were put in. So it was just an average of the 5 scores. So I just took them criteria.
Okay, so just to clarify, so I'm going to, as an example, I'm going to look at abide for the first question and the proposal itself.
Sure.
They got a number 9.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean when you averaged all of the input, the average was 9?
The average was 8.6.
Okay.
But again, I mean, we could get into like all of those decimal points, and I thought that it would be overwhelming for everyone to look at it that way.
No,
so
that's not what I'm.
So it comes up with.
That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to understand what you did.
How we
so
got
what?
here. Yes.
What does the 1 to the right of the 9 mean?
Okay, so the unrounded number for that was 0.86. So what we're doing is we're taking the weighting and multiplying it by the number. So if as an average you came up with 8.6, and so the 8.6 would be multiplied by the 10%.
Okay, so
to get 0.86. These are rounded. So, and then this was the 25%. So it's and that's how the sheet was set up. There was a little bit of formatting issue with the sheet because I added someone at the end, but I did correct that when you sent your sheets in if they were not corrected. And so for instance, on abide, the averages were 8.6, 7.2, 6.2, 6.2, 1.5. And so what you ended up with here was a 6.22. So if you want, I can just read you what these numbers were across just so that you know what their actual number was. This was a 6.22. You want that just to know?
I don't necessarily.
Okay.
I don't necessarily need that. I just
maybe the top. Yeah, because Janelle did.
So at the bottom where their overall rating is 6. That's rounded and is equivalent to 60% out of 100%. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. And that might be, this is just showing here that at the bottom of the totals is showing that those total up to 100% of the score. But that shows, that's basically a rating out of 10 is what you're seeing. Like that's our scoring is 0 to 10. Where are they on a 0 to 10 scale overall? And so that's what that's showing. But I know Janelle, when you're done, I'll get to Janelle's question about the actual score.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
Yeah,
I just thought
good to know how we got here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And just to comment, I thought that any of the last 3, the 3 highest rated could do this job. I thought they all had some very, very good examples. I would like to ask the committee if they would consider, and I don't know if this is feasible or not, but because I think we all respect the Native Americans who lived here before us. I'm wondering if we would consider obtaining one design from their tracks and the rest from another designer.
Yeah,
I
you can
thought
talk
some
about
of
that,
it,
yeah, as a consideration. And the other thing I think like Christopher was bringing up is when I saw the work that was submitted from Bear Tracks, immediately thought that work would be really amazing on the kiosk somehow. You know, you have this kind of grand centralized, you know, building of sorts. And that is something that there will be more time for one thing. That has a much longer time frame. It's not dependent on the ODOT project or the ODOT time frame. And so that is something that I don't know what the committee thinks, but when I saw that, I thought that could be a really amazing place to put some of that art too. So
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Ruth.
Sure.
Janelle?
So just to go from what you just said, Chelsea, I think, yes, I love Bear Track's work. I think it's just not appropriate maybe for this project. So maybe the sidewalk inlays is not the right thing, but the kiosk and also plinths,
Yeah,
right? Like
Yes.
those would be really great places to showcase his work because I think it's beautiful. I just don't think it's appropriate for this project. That's just my feeling. And then I wanted to say just super quick that on the rating sheet, the qualifications and experience and the work examples categories seemed a little bit fuzzy to me. And so just for the record, I want to say that when I judged folks, the qualifications and experiences, I used like, can they complete the project and have they done similar projects? And then for the work examples, I kind of used the criteria of have they done logos, something in this subject or something in this style. So I was feeling a little bit like I didn't have a lot of clarification with the distinction between the two categories. So I just wanted to say that's what I did.
thank you.
Thanks.
It's good to know.
Can I respond to that, Christopher?
Yeah, and Chelsea, do you know who this person in the waiting room is?
I do not. Are we missing anyone?
I think, were we missing?
Zena is not here.
Tina is not here. Why don't we let them in and we'll see if we need to boot them out. Hopefully not. We'll just ask them to identify themselves.
Hi there, can you hear us on the phone?
I can.
Is that
I
Zena?
apologize. Pardon?
Is that Zena?
No, this is Chris Costella.
Oh, Chris, I think you may be in the wrong meeting. It's Ruth Causey.
Oh, hi, Ruth. Okay, so budget meeting, and this is the one that they sent me. So maybe it's already over.
Oh yeah, this is the Public Art Committee meeting.
Okay, I will let you go. Thank you very much.
No worries. Have a wonderful evening.
Nancy, before I answer your question, can I just quick answer Janelle's question? Okay, so Janelle had asked about what the decimal points were for the top. Well, you'd asked about Brad Johnson signs. No?
But yes, I had, but really I would be happy if you would just send us, just increase the decimal points to 2 on the Excel spreadsheet and send us that. I'm happy with that. I would
Okay.
just like,
Let
as
me just
my science background, would like to see the decimal points,
sure.
please.
Okay,
Thanks.
sure.
Yeah, you don't have to
Okay,
tell them to us. I don't think any of us will absorb them.
okay. Well, they are rounded, up and down. So
Do you want to send that to me and have me share that, or
Sure.
what would be best?
I can do
Okay,
that.
okay. I'll
Okay.
stop sharing this then for a little bit.
Sure. And so I think talking about Marks Garcia would be a good plan. Does anyone have any notes that they would like to share on any of the criteria in particular? Does anyone just want to start, jump in and talk about what they thought about Marks Garcia?
Nancy?
Well, I had raised my hand a ways back, so, but I guess I'm just gonna echo what some other folks have already said about, I thought that Bear Track's wood carving work was just phenomenal. And I think that there's an opportunity maybe to use, have that work somewhere else. And I thought his graphic work maybe wasn't quite as strong and powerful as his woodworking skills. So I think he's someone to definitely keep in mind. The Johnson, the person who does a lot of signage. I just wanted to say my concern when reviewing his work is I didn't see much illustration, and that he does do a lot of signage, but I wasn't sure if he was given the imagery, or is he the designer of the signs? It just wasn't totally clear to me in that proposal, so that's why I didn't rate him quite as high. The Marks and I can't remember the other person's last
I'll
name.
pull it up and just, if you give me like 5
Garcia.
seconds, I'll
Yeah.
back up.
I do know Andrea Marks. I should disclose that, so I'm a little bit biased. But I do think what's great about having 2 designers is that they're going to critique each other even before we get it as committee members, which is kind of nice. I know in, working in a collaboration, it's more challenging, but it's also like another level of revision, which I think is really awesome. So that's all.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. And I guess, we probably should have had a little section to disclose conflicts of interest or whatever. So thank you for doing that, Nancy. I guess if anyone else.
Agreed. Yes, thank you.
Yes, we should get that on the record. I don't believe I have any, but speak now or forever hold your peace, I guess. All right. Wonderful. So yeah, thank you, Nancy. Any other sort of general discussion or discussion about any of those sort of top 3 candidates, if that's what we're limiting our discussion to?
I just want to say thank you for the decimal points. That makes things a lot more clear.
Great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Ruth?
I just wanted to comment that I found Lenore graphics to be perhaps the most versatile in the range of the work that she had done, but I would be interested in others' comments on perhaps what was it about Marx Garcia that swayed you toward them and away from others.
Yeah, I guess just for me, I think the thing that sold me on Marx Garcia was the fact that they had one of their examples was like graphic design that was then turned into metal. I know it was like on a bottle, like it was like much smaller than we're talking, but that just gave me a lot of confidence that not only do their graphics look good, but they understand the relief and how to like translate 2D imagery into sort of that barely 3D relief sort of thing. So I guess it wasn't so much that I thought their graphics were far superior to Lenore. It was just that it sort of gave me confidence that they would be able to really see it through the whole process. But that's just me. Peggy?
I agree. You're talking about the co-motion graphic that was on the bike.
I don't remember exactly, but yes,
it looked like exactly what we were looking for, because it did have the dimensional aspect to it. One of my top 2, I'm one of those that did not send to Chelsea the whole spreadsheet. I just picked the top 2, and one of them was Bear Tracks. I actually feel that it would be appropriate. I know that Bear Tracks didn't show a lot of art that was not Native American influenced, but there's a lot of the other folks that didn't show any artwork that was Native American influenced. So I kind of used a wash for that one, but I think Bear Tracks and Marx Garcia got my high marks, and I just felt that some of the graphics with the Marx Garcia it just fit really well. I can't really say it was whimsical, I thought, but it kind of led that way. It was just kind of easy to understand what they were getting at. So that's how they got my vote,
Awesome, thank you.
by the way.
Janelle?
So I wanted to say just a couple things. Marks Garcia, I did like that. I thought they have a connection to place and really good experience. And I did like looking through their logos. I liked, I made notes, but the co-motion cycles. I like that logo and I think it's super cool, but I don't know about the rest of them about how they really fit in to our project. And then one of the things I did with all the artists, if they had it available, was to look at their statement because or their philosophy or whatever. I thought that gave me a good insight into the folks. And I really liked Lenore's artist statement. I thought it really kind of gave me the idea that she would be really in tune with what we want as a city. And then I liked how she just seemed like empathetic, and I liked her breakdown of costs. That sheet, I don't know if you can see it, but she really broke down what she was doing, not just throwing a number at us like it's $11,000. Like for what? Like the idea of mood boards and talking to us and thinking about what we're looking for and those kinds of things. I thought it just spoke to me as someone that would be, even though she's a little more expensive, what are we looking for? I mean, we're not looking for the dollar store sidewalk plaque. So I don't know. I think that both of those had some really nice ideas. And I like what you said, Nancy, about any of these artists about having sort of a checks and balances before it gets to us, that they're critiquing each other and thinking about it. So that's it.
Yes, thank you. Any other thoughts, Nancy?
I just wanted to say that I was pretty much tied between Lenore and Marks and Garcia. I do not know Lenore, but a friend of mine referred her to the project. So I do have like a 1 degree of separation to her. But yeah, I honestly would be like thrilled if either of them do it. For me, when I was looking at all the work, I was also keeping in mind that we have a timeline, and who do I think could get this project to the point where we're all really happy the fastest? And also who could communicate with the folks that are going to actually be building these in an efficient way that this will get done on time. And I think either of them have the experience to do so. So I just wanted to add that because I'm not biased towards Marks. I'm biased towards both of them, both those two applications, and that's all.
Wonderful, thank you. I guess, yeah, if I can just talk about Bear Tracks too, I guess my thing with them isn't so much that I don't think their art style is appropriate for this. It's more the like medium of like wood carving, I think just doesn't really match with what we need if practically for this, and sort of like, a graphic that can then be transferred to someone that can print that or form it into the metal pieces. But I see Peggy has a thought on that. You're muted.
I went on to the Etsy that he had a lot of the artwork on. So unless that was somebody else's artwork, he had a lot of non-wood carving artwork, like the elk on a face mask. And it was just beautiful and would be beautiful on metal work.
Okay, I only looked at the actual specific examples folks gave us.
Okay, yeah, there was a lot of the background. If you clicked on the links that were provided with Chelsea, that was much more than wood carving.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go to Jen.
Yeah, I just also wanted to say that part of looking at it, as several of you have mentioned, is not would they do an amazing job. It's that we are under an extreme time crunch for this project. And so it has to be someone who has experience working. You're a lot of people. So having someone who's experienced with working with clients in this type of a job is important, and because otherwise we will not stay, we won't be able to stay on our short time frame. So I think some people, not speaking for people that work, that was a consideration in some of what they were choosing, which again, they all are great artists. I think we're lucky to have all of them on our list now. And so certainly if anyone is not selected that you as a committee felt was talented and wanted to be involved in the project, we can reach out to them, keep them in mind as we move forward with the rest of our art projects here.
Thank you. And then Jen?
I mean, I think the one thing I wanted to state about Bear Tracks, though, not only emphasizing the work that the person did with the Etsy, but also if you've ever done 3D work, you start with a 2D, typically with a sketch. And so that, I think they still understand the concept. If anything, they might understand it more because of starting with a 2D and understanding it's going to go to a 3D versus some of the graphic designers may not do that. And so that would be my defense of Bear Tracks. That they were just happen to be my favorite. But.
Okay, thank you. So I guess just to sort of keep us moving, are there any motions to maybe limit our scope to pick, like, 2 to choose between, 3 to choose between, to pick a
Or
few?
even choose one. Yeah, if someone wants to make a motion,
Right.
we should. Let's just start and put something out there and see where we're at.
In motion here, if we want to remove some from consideration, if we want to choose one, if we want to narrow it down to a couple. I saw Janelle has her hand raised.
Sure. I move that we limit our scope to Marks Garcia and Lenore Graphics. Lenore Graphics at this point, and move forward so we can make a decision quickly and efficiently.
Okay, is there a second? Is that Sally? Is that a second? Okay. So it's moved and seconded to limit our scope of discussion to Marks Garcia and Lenore. Is there any discussion on the motion, not on those two projects? Yeah, Peggy?
I mean, a question for Chelsea. Did I catch this right, Chelsea? You had said that the chart that shows the outcome was based on the 5 people that sent in the spreadsheets and didn't take into consideration the people that didn't turn in the spreadsheet?
Correct. I didn't receive feedback from one person. I hope I didn't miss that email today. And so those were an average of the people that I did get spreadsheets back from. And then you had submitted your top 2 picks. Right. And then I also had another email with ratings from top to bottom. And those ratings were, and it was overall was Marks Garcia, Brad Johnson, Lenore, Johnson Bell, Bear Tracks. So that's the order that they went in.
Okay, so the two that I sent, since I didn't send a spreadsheet, the 2 are they reflected in this spreadsheet?
No, because it just, it wouldn't have been accurate. So that's why I kind of disclosed that at the beginning. This is just what the people, and I believe that you and Sally and Ruth are the ones that weren't like fully included in the full spreadsheet. Ruth, again, I'm sorry if I missed your email. I've been having major spam issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did you send me it? I saw your email that said I'm sending it and then I could
Yeah,
not.
I did send it.
Okay,
Oh.
so this does not include that. So for Sally, again, her top was Marks Garcia and Brad Johnson. Ruth, what was, do you want to disclose what your top few were?
I would be happy to. I just need
Okay,
to pull
I
it up.
apologize. I've already apologized to Janelle profusely, her, and I have just, yeah, I've been working with IT a lot the last week on this issue that I've been having.
All right, I'm happy to disclose that my top pick was Lenore Graphics, and they got a score of 87%.
Okay.
Marks Garcia was second with 83%.
Okay.
Bear Tracks was third with 79%.
Okay.
Okay.
And so then, yeah, with Sally's, it was Marks Garcia with a score of 8, Brad Johnson with a 7, and then Lenore with a 5. And so, you know, for your question, Peggy, I don't think if those were all put in with all the numbers, I don't think it would make, I don't think that Bear Tracks would come out higher than the couple that are highest. It would maybe bump them up a little, but I don't think they'd come out
But
higher
my
than
two
these.
are Bear Tracks and Marks Garcia. So it sounds like Marks Garcia is either 1 or 2 for a lot of us here.
It does seem like that. Yeah.
Okay. Just to bring us back to our motion on the table.
Thank you, Christopher.
Janelle's motion to limit our discussion to Lenore and Marks Garcia is seconded. Is there any further discussion on just the motion? I'm not seeing any. So then just all in favor, if you can raise your hand. All right, wonderful. So then that passes unanimously. So then between those two, does anyone want to make a case for one or the other? Any thoughts on either of those? They both have a ringing endorsement from Nancy. So I see. Oh yeah, yeah.
You seem to like electronic hands.
The other one sometimes.
I liked, excuse me, I liked the point Nancy made about having 2 designers involved, not only to critique each other, but to back each other up. So I can see where if we're in an urgent situation and we need something corrected in a hurry, it might be very helpful having 2 people.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other discussion on our 2 options? Shar?
I think I had a thought similar to what you said, Christopher, with just seeing that they had done a design that transferred already to a metal outcome. You know, I think from the way that all of the information was presented, seemed that it gave me the most confidence that they would be able to work within the time frame with the outside designers, that it would require the least amount of babysitting. And I think I just had a lot of confidence in their ability to just take the job, take it to completion, and provide something that we would be really happy with.
Fantastic, thank you. Other comments or thoughts or questions or motions? We're always happy to entertain a motion here at the Public Art Committee. Janelle,
Sorry, not a motion, just comments.
Okay.
There's something about Lenore that I don't know any of these people, so I don't have whatever. But the super connection to Philomath is kind of cool, right? That the museum and all that stuff is kind of another great story about Philomath. If you think about it, like it's another cool thing that could be woven into the fabric of our story. But that being said, I don't have any reason to believe that Marks Garcia does not have a connection. So I think that I think for me, it feels like a pretty close tie, except there's something about what I read that made me feel a little bit more like Lenore would be really into getting into what our philomethness is.
Okay, yeah,
That's just but I don't have a strong opinion either way. I think that they're both great contenders. I think it comes down to fine details at this point in time, which are probably out of my area of expertise.
no, that's a great insight. Thank you. Sally?
Well, why are we picking two? Because are you saying you're gonna hire two separate?
We just to guide our discussion.
Oh, okay.
So now we have to pick one of these two
Okay.
to recommend. So, and important to keep in mind here, folks, all we're doing technically is recommending to the city council. At the end of the day, they can do whatever they want. But I think, our job is, and Chelsea and I will both attend the city council meeting, and obviously Ruth will be there as well. So our job will be to sort of advocate for our choice and explain why we chose it, and hopefully convince the city council that it's the right choice. So just something to keep in mind. But yes, we do need to still pick one of these two to recommend to the city council.
I think it would be a good time when everyone's done with their bulk of the discussion, if someone does want to make a motion to recommend one of these vendors to the city council to award a contract to. When you're finished with your questions and comments, that would be a good next step.
Yeah, thank you. Shar?
I'm just ready to make a recommendation. We move forward with Marks Garcia.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second? Janelle, is that a second? All right. So it's moved and seconded to recommend Marks Garcia to the city council. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Oh, yeah, Janelle?
I would like to suggest that if the city council does not approve of Marks Garcia, that we have, however that works, at our disposal to suggest Lenore as a second and possibly Brad Johnson as a third, if for whatever, I don't know.
Chelsea?
But at least that we could select, if they don't approve, okay, here's my motion. If they don't approve Marks Garcia, I would like them to look at Lenore as a second option.
Okay, we need to vote on the motion that's on
First one.
the table currently.
Sorry.
If you would like to add that after the voting, or after we get,
Yeah.
let's vote on this one, and then we can move on to that one.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Any discussion on this motion? Ruth?
Chelsea, could you just clarify when this goes to the council, will the council actually have an opportunity to interview them or no?
No, at this point, it is a recommendation from the committee, so we're going to go forward just with the recommendation from the committee. The options for the council will be to choose the recommendation from the committee, which may include that they have a secondary proposer that they would like to have considered if the council doesn't want to choose the first one. The council will get just the information from whoever is recommended. So they'll get the proposal. If you're going with this vendor that's currently on the table, they would get the proposal so they can look at that person's information. But the point of doing this work on the committee level is that we're hopeful that it doesn't have to be done again by the council. And I will be telling the council of the short time frame that it really is, if we do not stick to the timeline that I put in the RFP, these cannot get manufactured in time for the project. It was tied in with the manufacturers, also time for manufacturing, and it was even pushing it into the ODOT project like 2 weeks, which is a little dicey, but our engineer is going to try to back us with having them know that they're coming. You're not quite working on that section, so it'll be okay. So that's the only stipulation is of bringing more information to another to the deciding body. But if, if they want to direct that, yes, absolutely. We just need to be clear that they know about the time frame.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, then we will take a vote. So all those in favor, if you can raise your hand. All right, so the motion passes unanimously. We will recommend Marcus Garcia to the city council. And then if there are any other motions that anyone wants to make on this agenda item, Janelle.
I would like to move that if the council for some reason rejects Marcus Garcia, that they then immediately look at Lenore Graphics as a means to expedite the procedure.
Okay. Chelsea, I guess, would that work?
Yeah, that will work. It will, I think, give the council a little bit more discretion on who they want to choose, just so you know, because I will provide them with the information from both vendors. But it still comes with your recommendation as a committee. And like Christopher said, he will be there as the chair to let, if they have questions about how did the committee come to this, and then I'll be there as well. So I think that's your ultimate goal, is that they're going to go with that. And, I don't know how the council will vote, but they put this committee in place to make recommendations for a reason. So, but I would give them that, because again, we can't hang up the process. So if that's going to be given as a potential option to them, I want them to have the information ahead of time so that they can hopefully make that decision. We need to have like the contract talk the next day with whoever's chosen. So
okay, so I guess, that's why I'm making that motion, I think, is
Mhm.
because like if they for some reason don't like our choosing, which is, I think that as a committee we felt pretty equal about them both. We chose what we thought was the best artist, the best situation, which happened to be a slightly lower cost.
sure.
So if the council doesn't like that, then here's our other one, but it's more expensive.
Right.
It seems like, but here's
Yeah,
the
so-
information,
Right.
and they have to make a decision on the spot, right? Because we have to move forward.
Right. So if you vote for that, I will provide that information both. And just so you know, the council will get the not the weighting sheet necessarily, but I may include that, but they will get like the summary sheet that shows like who responded, that they included everything. Here was their overall cost. They will get that, as well as the criteria. I think I'd included the rounded up version, but I may include this more technical version. Hopefully the people that don't like the more technical will manage through it. It's only 2 decimal points. I think we can all get it.
Not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. But I'll give them the quality, like what you looked at for criteria. So they should have all the information of how you got to that point, and that we've gone through several rounds, and they'll have all that information.
Also, I apologize. We technically never got a second on that motion, I think. So we need a second just to have
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah, now I think we can move forward.
Okay, Ruth, thank you. So seconded. So now, if anyone has any discussion on this motion, I see Nancy's hand up.
I just had a question about the costs that they bid for the project. Like, are they in line with what is, because we were never told exactly what the budget was for the design. I'm just curious if.
Do we want to move this until after the motion discussion, Kristen?
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So yeah, any other discussion on specifically recommending Lenore Graphics as a backup in the event that the city council rejects Marcus Garcia? And Peggy?
I feel more comfortable with presenting to the city council our number one choice by actually, pretty heavily. So that is the only reason why I wouldn't be voting for it. So I have nothing against the artist, but they did present a wonderful packet. But I think that since we've been discussing this for a while, and that is our overwhelming number one, I think that's what I feel the most comfortable with.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess just my perspective, I'm a little torn because on one hand, I think it's important that the city council, if they don't like our option, that they have another things, we aren't delayed. But I do also know just from watching city council meetings that the city council likes to just really talk about things and pull things apart. No disrespect to our city council member in the meeting, but I am a little afraid of giving them two options. It might lead to them just doing what they want and not taking our number one, number two into consideration.
Well, and again, yeah, if I could interject a little, yeah, just a reminder that is what you are here to do, is make a recommendation. And so in this case, just to refresh, what we're looking for is one designer to work with, or one firm to work with to move forward. So, you can choose and vote on which option you want, but just keep that in mind, that is ultimately what we're trying to do, is say that you've all really weighed all of this out, which you've all done a great job. And this is the decision that you've come to, and hope that they respect that. I mean, you've all done a great job. You really have been very thorough.
Thank you, Chelsea. Janelle?
I'd like to retract my motion.
Okay.
So, but like seriously, because Chelsea, once you explained that they would have that information, that's not what I want, because that makes us seem like we haven't made a decision, like we're wishy-washy, and we're not. We have made a decision. This is the decision we want to present. And so whatever happens after that, I don't know how it works, but y'all do. So like, I don't want that to be my motion anymore. If I can make that be.
Sure.
Look at me know my Robert's Rules of Order. Just kidding.
At one point, I used to know my Robert's Rules of Order, and I think that is permissible. So we can go ahead and retract that motion. Sally? Oh, you're muted.
This is off topic, but my puppy is playing games with me and she keeps wanting to go out. I have to run and let her go out so she doesn't have an
Okay.
accident. So I've left twice. I apologize. I just wanted to apologize.
No worries. Thank you so much for letting us know. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So as if there's no other discussion or motions on that agenda item, then
I wanted to remind, we did have Nancy had the question about cost. Oh, you were asking if they were in line with cost. Well, again, what I've been told is that we have budget for this project. I think that what we wanted to do is get something that was in line with what the project should be budgeted. I don't think that we're out of range. I think it was, we don't want anything that's really crazy high, because we don't want to be paying something that's too high. But it was pretty clear with these submissions that they were all, most of them were within a pretty general range. So I think that we're on track, obviously, with what this kind of work should cost.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious if that could be a moving part that they would
think so,
deny,
yeah.
that they would be denied from the city council because it was too high.
Well, I mean, they could say, we don't think in general that this project should cost this much.
Okay.
and I mean, it's also the city council's the one that, decides the budget. So like if they want to spend a little more money on it, they, it's originally they like delegated us like $3,500 to just directly award a contract to someone. And we've since decided that we want to go over that. And then because of that, send it back to them. So.
And that wasn't a city council selected number, by the way. That was just a general, like, we didn't have anyone that we were working with to even ask. Usually you have someone that you're working with that's willing to say, okay, I get you have to go out for bids. Here's my general idea of how much that would cost. And you have that number to go with. We didn't have that. And so I think that's why it's so different. But we've clearly really focused in on what we want, and we're very clear. And so I think that shows that we're clear. We have a timeline. This is how much that costs to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Great. Thank you. So then I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, which is next steps and scheduling of next meeting. I also want to acknowledge that we are only 4 minutes away from our scheduled end time. I'm going to move to end at how long do you think this discussion will take, Chelsea?
Hopefully not more than 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll move to extend until 6:40. Is there a second on that? Great. Moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to extending the meeting till 6:40? Fantastic. Okay. Then I can turn it over to Chelsea, and hopefully you all had a chance to look through her email that talked a little bit about some of these next steps.
Yeah, you may have to refresh me on which email I sent Christopher.
I can probably share it here too.
I was going to just start briefly with talking about the bike racks. Initially, I was told the bike racks had a pretty long, don't worry about it timeframe. Then I've met with the landscape designers and our engineer today for the whole project. And so we came into an agreement of how we were going to move forward with it. But the essential part is that we are going to need to start talking about the bike racks. I think that we discussed today a way to not make it, earlier today, it may have been that I was going to come here and say, do you like trees? Great. I will tell them tomorrow that we're putting a tree on the bike racks. But I did sort of work through that process and bought us a little bit more time. But I do want you to think about that. It's a little bit difficult. I think for some of you have mentioned that you would like to make sure that they somehow tie together. But this might be a way that you could show something really Philomath unique, like the silhouette of Mary's Peak, or just something that's simple that it doesn't look like everyone else's bike rack. So I will be probably getting a little pushy about this to get some decisions made soon. So even though you're working on the inlays, I just want to make sure that people have this on their radar and can try to think about it. If you can think about something that you think, and again, I know it's a little difficult without knowing what the inlays look like, but this could kind of spark part of the inlays. You've all had a pretty thorough discussion about the inlays and in general, what kinds of things you'd like to see. So this may just be something we're choosing to put an oak tree on them. Great. Hey, we'd like to see that on one of the inlays too, just to tie it in and be consistent. So that's kind of what I have to say about that. And I promise there are parts of this project that are not going to be this pushy. Like we're going to need to get through them, but ODOT doesn't mess around.
Thank you, Chelsea. Nancy?
Maybe I missed this, but who's designing, like, let's say we're like, yes, Mary's Peak, that's it. Who's designing that? I mean, Mary's Peak looks like what it looks like, but who would actually be rendering that illustration?
Right. So that's something that potentially we may be able to ask our second choice person. Is that something you're interested in doing? I think it's going to be really simple, and I'm going to put a call into the bike rack manufacturer and ask what exactly they need. They may have designers in-house, so it may be that we just provide them with, we want Mary's Peak, we want Philomath, here's the font we like. They may put it together into the design that they need to make it. I just have to call them this week and see what exactly they do. I'm not sure. Only our landscape designer has spoken with them directly.
Okay. I mean, and it could also be if Marks Garcia ends up being the middle inlays, because it would be in the same spirit illustration wise as the inlays, which I think is interesting, but I'm not opposed to, somebody else on the list doing it.
Right. And when we have that additional rate, sorry, Christopher, we have that additional rate that we got from them, which could be separate from the contract or the inlays that we could, look at that.
And just to clarify, you don't need an action from us tonight, right? We're just sort of supposed to keep this in mind. Right.
Yes, the earlier option was that I was going to give you a really like an ultimatum, pick yes or no on these two options, but we're not there, thankfully. So yes, I just wanted to give you an update on that's where the discussion went, and that it is going to be a timely thing, even though we're also working on the inlays, which are a timely thing.
Yeah, thank you. Peggy?
It just seems like, would we have enough time, since we've already chosen, and hopefully the council agrees with us, the designer, that we could just choose one of the simplest, quickest design out of all the artwork that is supplied and say, this is the one. It's quick, simple, easy. It says Philomath and it's part of the design that is going to be in the inlays, that we could just pull one of those out. It wouldn't even be an extra expense. Or would that just be just so out of our timeline?
We may be able to. I'm waiting to hear back about a couple of things this week. But like I said, I think that I've bought us enough time that we may be able to go that route. I just have to, I have to get some, I don't have all the information right now. I wish that I did, but it may be too that if we have to choose something, that while we're kind of waiting to get through the city council's meeting on the 14th, and then I'm guessing that the designers, that week of the 14th, I was hoping we could have a meeting with whoever you choose for a designer for this inlays later that week. But we may have time in between now and then to schedule a meeting, but we can do that. I can email if that's something that comes up to where we need to talk about the bike racks now. Can you have a meeting between now and then? I'll just email about that and see if we need to schedule that. But yes, your idea, I like your idea. We'll just have to see if the time frame fits into that. Like if they can get into the design process, we can say, hey, we like this tree or this, branch or whatever you did. Let's put that on the bike rack. That seems like the most fluid way for us to do it. I'll just have to see if we can make it fit in with ODOT's requirements.
Great, thank you. Janelle?
I just kind of wanted to echo that, but then also say that it would be, I would think, relatively simple to have a cutout like in that in your email there that is on the screen of the silhouette of just the peak of Mary's Peak, and then underneath each one, yeah, you could do kind of like we're doing with the inlays. You could have pulling pieces from the inlays. You could have an oak tree, you could have a deer, you could have a mushroom, like whatever it is, whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
Then underneath Mary's Peak, just the outline of Mary's Peak, that then you could have a large cutout of an Oregon white oak or whatever it is. And that seems like, it seems to me like that would be really cool, because then they wouldn't have to all be the same. They could be a little bit different, just like the inlays are. We were in Toledo and they have all these benches and they are all the same shape, but they all have different, once you stop and pay attention, they all have different patterns, and it's cool. And I think that's like what we're trying to do. So anyway, that's all. And then also, Chris, I think that you should have more tabs open.
Oh God, I was going to apologize for that at the beginning and I forgot. I was hoping no one saw it. Yeah, no, I have addiction. And okay, the thing you all don't know is that I'm at someone else's house right now and they have one of those super wide monitors. So you're only seeing half the screen right now, and it's really enabling my addiction. But anyway, enough of that. I guess just on that note, Chelsea, do you know anything about the process of manufacturing? Like, would it cost us more to have different designs, or are they just like CNCing them or something and it doesn't cost any more to make different ones?
Yeah, I got a quote for the non-embellished ones versus the embellished ones, because they're actually, the way the plan sits right now, I think there's only 3 or 4 maybe that will actually be embellished, because the way they set is that there's bike racks on the inside, and then you don't do those, it would probably look really busy, and they're on the inside of some things that sit outside. So there actually aren't that many. It might not be an immense cost to have different ones just for that few. Like if it were $50 more, $100 more, maybe it's worth it to have different ones. Or maybe because there's so few, you just think maybe we should be consistent because there's so few that we should tie them together. But yeah, we can have the bike rack discussion later. I will just keep you posted on when I think we need to get in and start having that discussion.
Great. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just so y'all can see each other. All right, there we go. So I guess any other pressing details to go over now, Chelsea, or should we just get to scheduling our lab?
I don't think so. I think you guys have done a lot of work tonight.
So when you talked about the possibility of meeting after the city council hopefully approves it, Is that what we should shoot for now, or is that sort of like an ad hoc thing that we'll just wait and hear from you for? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yes, I think we should schedule that meeting for after the city council meeting if we can. I'm gonna look at the calendar on the city calendar. And then if you need to have one in between for the bike racks, I will just let you know that.
Okay. And when you say after city council, do you mean like?
I would like it to be that week.
Okay.
So that's the week of the 15th through the 17th or through the 18th, sorry. Friday does count. It's not always everyone's favorite. And so yes, is there a day that doesn't work? Tuesday through Friday that week, the 15th through the 18th. Does anyone have a preference or something that just won't work?
I'm gonna look at my own count. Oh, yes. Okay. Jen, I'm not gonna be able to see hands for a second because I'm gonna go look at my own count. Oh, wait, I have a whole other screen over here. I'll be fine. All right, go ahead, Jen.
I have a standing Zoom game night on Friday, so I prefer not
Okay.
that one.
Say most people don't like Friday meetings. What about Thursday, the 17th?
Like Thursday.
Yeah, that actually works
Work?
for me.
Is that a problem for anyone?
Anyone
Go
hard
with that, Shar?
Thursday?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's just set it for that, and I will double check that there are no conflicts. I'm not seeing any on the calendar, but
Okay, and 5:30 still works for everyone? Okay,
so we'll do that. And the contingency of that is that I'm hopeful that we'll have selected the designer. I will talk to them on the morning of the 15th, and that I'm really hopeful that they'll be able to come to that meeting, or at least, I mean, they should be able to come. It's Zoom, but that I really am hoping that they'll be able to. If for some reason they're not, that next week's city meeting wise is really full, but maybe we can find a way to squeeze it into the next meeting. Just, we gotta to get the conversation going. So
yeah.
that's my intention.
Janelle?
So if the council does not accept Marks Garcia,
Looking at you, Ruth.
yeah, Ruth, no, I'm just kidding. So like, so if they don't accept Marks Garcia, which I have a feeling they should and will, because they put us together to make this decision. If they don't, then basically the next day, we need to know they didn't. And so then we need to be able to be like, well, then, I mean, how does that work? Like, look at these people so that we can be moving forward and we're not losing days.
Right, the
Because-
options to them that at least at this point, I haven't had my staff, my summary report reviewed yet. The options that I presented are pick the one that they are recommending or direct us on what you want to do, because at that point, it is gonna just completely blow our timeline. And it's gonna blow it all the way down. So that'll be a different discussion at that point. I'm not sure that we'll be able to make up the time to have it installed as part of the ODOT project. And so we're gonna have to, some other decisions will have to be made. Like they've talked about putting concrete plugs in place and having a separate contractor later. And so, you know, this is why I've been so like, we have to do this. So
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
hopeful, I'm hopeful that, you know, it's not a huge decision, and they still will be making the final decisions on the designs as well. So that's something that's important to remember for the council, is that they're saying, yes, you've reviewed people, these look like a good person, go with that, with the stipulation that we know that the designs are going to come back to us. So that's the second part of that. So
And that's why we have 8 designs.
I think we
partially,
whittled
right?
it down just to like lower the cost because we were concerned about the cost, but you know, I think, yeah, that.
Sorry, but if the council
ultimately-
wanted to pick 5 and they're like, no, we just take these 5, then.
Well,
like,
what
we
it
don't
would
fight
do
them.
is, right, so we would take the designs that you recommend, here are the signs, we work through them, this is what we recommend, and then it would be, okay, now we're gonna start the clock on those additional hours that we didn't, that's why I asked for additional hours, is if the council decides we don't like these, or we don't like this one, we want to scrap it, then we're going to have to, kind of add on to that contract for another part of the scope of work that's not involved in the scope of work, a new scope of work.
Totally. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. Ruth?
Just playing devil's advocate, I'm not sure why the council would reject them, unless they thought they were too expensive, but they're pretty much in line with the average cost. So they might want to ask for a lower hourly rate. I think their hourly rate was a little high. But as far as their experience goes, I think, as you guys pointed out, they're really close to what it is we want. And there are two of them instead of one of them, and they do have experience. So.
Yeah, great. I also recognize that we are at our time limit for the evening. So unless if anyone else has any other pressing comments, which I'm not seeing any hands. So I will adjourn this meeting and we will see each other